Hi, I'm Tim, welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing the FP Journe Vagabondage III, jumping seconds and jumping hours. This watch is a world premiere and unarguably one of the most sensational watches of 2017. 68 pieces in rose gold. You can see this limited edition timepiece and buy it on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch with additional accessories included in the sale, high-resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this FP Journe Vagabondage III. Now you may be wondering, why is the jumping second watch apparently scrolling in stutter steps through the seconds of the day? Well, the reason for that is that the watch has a sort of power saving mode that I wanted to demonstrate before I wound it fully, just to show you the full scope of this watch, because it has almost unadvertised features such as that add to the nuance and the richness of the ownership experience. So let me show you what happens when you wind the watch properly. Power reserve at about 1 o'clock on the dial. You can see as it advances, the watch will step up to a true jumping seconds operation. Now you see, as I wind the watch towards its 40-hour maximum power reserve, the jumping seconds. And I can tell you, it's like winding a lange Zeitwerk in the sense that the huge amount of energy necessary to keep this watch running throughout the day means that even through the fingers, you can feel the toughness and size and energy potential of that massive mainspring. It must be like the leaf spring of an old pickup truck because it is incredibly stiff. It's an imposing wind, a real tactile pleasure to activate. Now back on the wrist, let's talk a little bit about the fit and the feel. The first of the Vagabondage series came out in 2005, and it was related to the anniversary of the founding of Antiquorum. Now, it was a sort of confluence of that occasion and a leftover movement from FP Journe's days as a movement engineer for other companies. So he had a movement that would fit in a tonneau shape, and he wasn't necessarily thrilled about the idea of putting his own name on a movement that wasn't a chronometer. Well, in time, the precision of the movements has stepped up to his level of expectations, but the tradition of keeping the maker's mark and name off the dial has sustained, as has the tonneau shape. Now, you can see the watch is really quite well suited to a small wrist. It's only, are you ready for this? 45.2 millimeters from lug to lug, which means it's within shouting distance of a 36 millimeter Rolex Datejust on a strap. It's only 8 millimeters thick, and across the case, it's 37.7 millimeters, which means in my estimation, you could wear this watch on a wrist as small as 13.5 centimeters in circumference with great security. Now, it does have outstanding ergonomics. You can see that the strap will pull straight down around the tight curve of a small wrist, and this despite being drilled quite high, so that there's almost no daylight between strap and case. It creates a highly integrated aesthetic. The strap is a premium piece, very substantial despite not being bolstered for a thin profile. It features a semi-gloss rectangular scale alligator leather in black. It's not matte, it's not gloss, it's somewhere in between the two. Folded edge and a monotone stitch. It's appointed with a full deployant clasp, which is not universal among Journe pieces, so this is a flagship piece and a technology leader. It comes thusly appointed, and you can tell every piece of this watch, right down to the clasp, speaks to the sense of occasion that FP Journe wanted to impart to the buyer. Now, the watch has a very simple shape, although nicely executed. Polished flanks, polished bevel to the bezel flank, as well as the lug hoods and case end hoods. The actual bezel itself, or what would conventionally be described as the bezel, features a vertical satin grain for contrast with the polished facets. It's a simple, elegant, flat, and comfortable form, nicely executed. Now, the dial is recognizably FP Journe in a few elements. Despite the lack of a name, you can see the signature bezel and dial side screws, so on the same plane as the bezel, you can see, as well as the dial, the screws are present, although not as pronounced as in other FP Journe timepieces. And, I'm looking at you, Sontograph Souverain, right there, just for comparison, but it's subtle. You'll also note that there's the Journe biomorphic style hand that you see on the other watches in both the power reserve scale as well as the radial minutes. Now, everything that looks like it's printed onto the dial is actually on the underside of a secondary sapphire that has been lacquered to create the windows as well as the individual numerals, and you can see a very subtle minutes style railroad track outboard. Now, the individual discs bearing the hours and the seconds feature a very subtle gray and black, or it's more like a whitish gray and black cross-hatching that creates the aesthetic you see here. It looks like a medium black from a distance, but it's far more intricate when viewed closely, both for the finish of the movement as well as elements like the cross-hatching of the numeral discs. I recommend enjoying both sides of this watch with a loop. Now you can see the watch features a handsome case back that's perhaps more familiar to Journe fans than the dial side. 18-karat rose gold bridges and plates. You can see triple finish in the beautiful mirrored anglage across the edge of every bridge, a tight and even engine turning across the base plate, and then the beautifully aligned and richly textured linear Côte de Genève running horizontally. All screw heads are high polished to the black polish standard, so you can see it's from certain angles they appear black, hence the nickname Poly Noir. Single mainspring barrel, an immense amount of energy to keep this running for 40 hours despite the fireworks of the dial side. It's kind of like winding a lange Zeitwerk, just the resistance you get in the sense of the huge mainspring, although on the case back it's clearly FP Journe, right down to the free-sprung balance that allows this timepiece to keep far, far better time than that first Vagabondage. The watch is now up to the chronometric standard that Journe expects of timepieces bearing his actual name. Moreover, the free-sprung architecture allows it to take and hold a precise regulation and then retain resilience to shock or bump or vibration-induced timing deviation. Moreover, it's a big balance relative to the proportions of the movement, beating away at a stately 21,600 vibrations per hour, the whole mechanism pivoting on 32 individual jewels. Because it is a gold movement inside a gold case with a gold clasp, it's heftier in the hand than you might suspect for a watch of this size at first glance. A limited edition of 68 pieces in rose gold. They will make one fewer than the platinum. This is another Vagabondage tradition that's been going strong since the second generation of the watch. A handsome timepiece and one of the most discussed of the last year. You can see and purchase this FP Journe Vagabondage III in rose gold on our website.